Good evening. The time is now 7:01. We call this meeting to order. Regular board meeting Tuesday, July 10th, 2012, 7 p.m. Item number 1, call to order, and we do have a quorum. Item number 2 and 3, Pledge of Allegiance to the U.S. and Texas flags and invocation. And this evening, we do have 2 students joining us from PRC. We'll begin first by introducing Orlando Cruz. Orlando Cruz is currently a senior at San Benito High School and is 17 years old. He is the son of Norma Tames. His favorite subject is math. Orlando's hobbies are playing football, and he enjoys working out. After high school, Orlando plans on joining one of the branches in the military. After his years in the service, he plans on pursuing a career in immigration. Thank you. We also have Cecilia Victoriana Gonzalez. She is a daughter of Nelda M. Adames. Cecilia is 17 years old and a senior at the San Benito High School. Her hobbies include photography and drawing. Cecilia enjoys school and loves to learn new things every day. Her favorite subject in school is math. She says that with math, there's always a solution and an answer for everything. Cecilia mastered all 4 areas of the tax and was commended in 3 of them. She's been in ROTC and will be in it again next year. She plans to go to college or join the Air Force. She's busy this summer working at the White Wings games. So if I can please have everyone stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, and indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you, Heavenly Father, for the opportunity to be here today, to live, to breathe, to appreciate all the beautiful things we have placed here for each of us to admire. Thank you, Lord, for placing these blessed people together and asking them to help guide each generation to create, reach, and succeed future goals. Not only have they helped us build our character, but find our character. Not just teaching us to become productive citizens, but showing us how to accept and thank productive citizens. I pray that each one of us leaves here today joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. I pray that we continue to live one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, and accepting hardships as our pathway to peace. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. If I can please have the parents of these 2 students please stand and be recognized. Also, thank you to Mr. Guerra for allowing these students to represent your campus as well. Moving on to item number 4, roll call. Board members, please respond with present. Ms. Ana Cruz, Vice President. Ms. June Aguilera, Secretary. Ms. Fatima Huerta, Trustee. Mr. Julian Huerta, Trustee. Mr. Hector Gilial, Trustee. Mr. Oscar Medrano, Trustee. Mr. Antonio G. Limon, Superintendent. And Mr. Kevin O'Hanlon, Attorney. Thank you. Item number 5. Recommend approving the agenda of the regular board meeting of July 10th, 2012 with any corrections or deletions. Do I have a motion? Okay, motion made by Mr. Leal, seconded by Ms. Aguilera. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Item number 6, Superintendent's report. Mr. Limon.
Thank you, Madam President. This time, I'd like to inform the board of the overnight trips that have been scheduled. At San Benito High School FFA, their state FFA convention in Corpus Christi. That'll be July the 10th through July the 13th. San Benito High School in Career Technology, Skills USA, the AV Production Skills USA, Washington Leadership Training Institute, September the 15th through the 19th in Herndon, Virginia. We also have disbursements for our organization. That concludes the superintendent's report. Answer any questions any board members may have.
Thank you, Mr. Limon. Being that there are no questions, we'll move on to item number 7, school construction report. Mr. Ramon?
Good evening. Frank Roberts and Landrum Elementary, plumbing and electrical work is continuing. Ceramic tile is continuing. The bathrooms partitions are being installed this week. At Landrum, plumbing and electrical work is continuing. Ceramic tile is continuing. The date has been moved up for a completion date of August the 8th. And they're about 96% completed in those projects. For the summer projects, the one at Riverside on the gym, the renovation there, the main unit has already been delivered. A structural welding should be completed during this week. They are scheduling the crane within 2 weeks to come and pick up one unit and put the other one back. And they are scheduling to what we call to start the system back on August the 1st. At Miller, the HV renovation at the field house, demolition has been completed there already. The equipment is scheduled to be here this week, and their startup date is also scheduled for August the 1st. At the HVAC renovations at Frank Roberts and La Paloma, we had some challenges there. First of all, at La Paloma, the demolition at Wing 200 has already been completed. All demolition at Frank Roberts also has been completed. Part of the equipment, or all of the equipment, was scheduled to be delivered during this month. However, Friday we were informed by the manufacturers that they were not going to be able to keep those dates, and they're giving us different dates. And that's why I said it's going to be a challenge to have everything together. Equipment for La Paloma Wing 200, which is the one that we already demolished and is ready for the new units. Those are scheduled to come in on August the 13th. The contractor tells me that he should be able to have everything running by the 20th in Wing 200. Thank God for summer school, because of summer school, we were not able to demolish the equipment at Wing 100 at La Paloma, and those units don't come until the 27th. And as you know, the 27th is the first day of school. And so we are going to look at what options are available. I have talked to the principal, and we're going to get together later to discuss some possibilities and what we might be able to do. At Frank Roberts, half of the equipment is going to be arriving August the 13th. Now, and that's a little less than half of the campus that we're doing. The contractors are telling me that they should, by the 20th, be able to have the system running. However, the rest of it doesn't arrive until August the 20th. That means half of the classrooms, if not a little more, would not be functioning on the day that teachers come back. I have visited with Mr. Galvan, and I'm attending one of his meetings tomorrow to look at it and discuss what options we might have, what things that he might need to do that first week when teachers come in. Are there any questions? No, sir. The problem is that we hesitated to bring this to the board because I wanted to make sure that we had enough money to complete this project. And so right now we're just getting all the crumbs together and finding out. And they had assured us 6 to 7 weeks, but then the manufacturers gave us something different. And so I think we're still going to have air conditioning by the first day of school. You know, it might not be balanced. We still need to work with that in the evenings, but we ought to be able to do that. And yes, it's going to be a challenge for the contractor to get all that thing done, but there are some projects at other schools that they're finishing at the end of July, first week in August, so they're going to bring more people in to get this done.
Could I have that in writing? The punch list for Frank Roberts, when do you anticipate that?
The punch list has started, not because it's ready to be punch list, but because the contractor had asked the architect to see if he could possibly do that. One of the reasons why we hesitate to start that early, because your list is going to be longer.
Right.
But some of that has already been done. You have an item today that you will consider. And the reason why we're asking for you as a board to authorize the building committee to approve it substantial completion. Substantial completion means the building is ready to be occupied. The city has already given their permit for occupancy, and the punch lists have already been generated. They have 30 days from there, they have 30 days, the general contractor, in which to complete their work. But as far as substantial completion, that is critical, because that's the first time that we can move furniture in. Because that's when I go and talk about, let's have this insured beginning on this date, whenever that date is that happened. Now, it is right now set up for August the 8th. I'm hoping, and that's why I recommended Mr. Limon to have this item that you're going to look at later, because I'm hoping that by the end of this month that we will have that ready, give our staff a couple of more weeks to move the furniture in and all those things they need to be able to do.
I know that at the building committee for the board members, Mr. Ramon gave us a really good picture of all the projects, and I want to thank you for that, because under the circumstances and the deadlines and so forth, you've been able to keep us abreast and look out for the interests of the district. And you know, the bottom line, Mr. Ramon, at the end of the day, you know, we want to finish this project.
Yes, sir.
You know, and that should be our main goal for the
Yes, sir.
kids, because, you know,
Yes.
we want to make sure it's done by the first day of school, so.
And
thank
I've
you
been
for-
very
for-
concerned, because I had hoped that we would have done that back in December. That didn't happen. I had hoped that it would be done in May and then in June, and I was hoping to do it here, but that's why we're asking for that particular item.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramon. Item number 8, public comment. The undersigned wishes to address the San Benito CISD Board of Trustees, and by his or her signature shows into the board that he or she understands the following provisions to addressing the board. The person wishing to address the Board of Trustees must register with the presiding officer or designee no later than 5 minutes before the announced time of the school board meeting, shall state their full name, shall state what organization or group, if any, is being represented, shall state the topic they wish to address before the school board, shall refrain from commenting directly on any individual school district employee or public official by name, but may instead refer to a specific employment area, job title, or the Board of Trustees as a whole, and shall refrain from attacks on individual. The speakers will be allowed only 5 minutes to give his or her presentation. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint 1 person to present their views before the Board of Trustees. Presentations shall be informative and shall pertain to school-related issues. Any attack on an individual shall be considered disruption of the meeting. The Board of Trustees shall not deliberate or decide regarding any subject that is not included on the agenda posted with notice of the meeting. Lionel Betancourt?
Madam President, Superintendent, members of the board, thank you for this opportunity. Probably, my name at first is Lionel Betancourt, but I was told I needed to say that. But the basis for my being here, I would hope that you know what we've been trying to do in the last few weeks. It was very much of a fluke, and it ends up being just one of the nicest things I've seen happen in this community in a long time. And I know as a public personality, it is something that we all look forward to. What I'm here to asking for is the opportunity, the permission to have access to Dolly Vincent Memorial Hospital. We have, really only an outpouring of care from the community, have ended up with an operating committee willing to, at a volunteer level, to start trying to repair what at this point is truly a serious tragedy. The building has been trashed. Every piece of copper wire and pipe has been extracted from it. The graffiti inside it is just the mark of children, I guess, having fun. There's not a piece of furniture left in it to speak of. Everything's been removed. All the artifacts have been removed. This building has a history in this community. I don't doubt that some of you were born there. I know my parents died there. My dad was one of the initiators of the fundraiser to raise the money to build it. And as were a lot of other members in this community and past members, a lot of who are not with us any longer. The need has been identified. I apologize for the play in the press. Most of that was speculation. What if? How? Maybe. And the fortunate result was both our local newspaper and the daily newspaper accepted this as a challenge and a public interest challenge, and really has done a wonderful job in maintaining a very high profile and informing the community of what we're doing and what we're trying to do. I have been before the city and the county. Both have granted us permission to have access to the building. You are 1/3 of, probably a little bit greater than that because of the tax relationship, but as the taxing entity, you're 1/3 of the owners representing the building, as apparently it has been presented to us. And we need your permission to be able to take charge of a cleanup. I have made it clear, would like to do that here too, that everyone or anyone that enters that building, either I will know personally or one of us in the group will know personally. They will sign a hold harmless agreement. There will be no recourse on the school district, the county, or the city. And the project has been accepted by my Rotary Club as a community service project, which will add additional manpower in certain levels that we can use. But at the same time, as a community service project in the name of Rotary, we are covered by a blanket liability policy, which is rather extensive. The only thing we cannot do is serve alcohol or carry guns into the building, and that is not obviously any of our intentions. Larry Drake, a retired peace officer, is a member of our group. He's here with us tonight with his sister Dorothy. They have made it quite clear that policing action runs in his blood, and I expect to use that. Also with me, she had to leave the room. I'm not sure she did return. Is Maria DeFord, known to me as Lupe Arena from San Benito High School. She worked for me back in I believe it was called DECA, a long time ago, and has been a member of my family truly since then. And she's here with me. She's offering, keeping it straight support. Be sure we don't go off the wrong track. And we have contractors that have offered free service to help us. We have a lot of preliminary work that needs to be done. We think, at least that is our hope, that we have the thought of knowing what we need to do and how to go about it. Years ago, I always like to remember things, but years ago I was president of the local Chamber of Commerce. That was back in 1975. And Jack Hall, then the superintendent of schools, came to me and said, we're losing the possibility of building the high school. We have public opinion is just running rampant against it, and we will not be able to pass the $5 million bond issue. Will you help? Well, that was the first recall after going through and looking at stuff that I had, that I was placed in charge of a committee then. This time the school asked me to do this, and I was delighted to do so. It was a landslide victory. Everybody knew exactly where we were coming from. We were straightforward. We kept nothing secret. If there was a tax to be levied, they knew how much the tax would be. They knew what the pitfalls would be. They knew the downside, the high side. We didn't keep anything a secret, and the community truly enjoyed that. And because of that, it was a major, major upset. It was believed it would not pass, and conversely, it passed just almost by a unanimous decision amongst the voters.
Mr. Betancourt?
And, yes.
With all due respect, you've exceeded your 5 minutes already.
I am so sorry.
But thank you for your presentation.
All I'm asking is that maybe you would reciprocate and help me now. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. Betancourt.
Julie.
Moving on to item number 9. In order to promote efficient meetings, the board may act upon more than one item by a single vote through the use of consent agenda. Consent items placed on the agenda shall be marked with an asterisk. Consent items are items for which no board discussion is anticipated and for which the superintendent recommends approval. Prior to the time which approval of consent agenda is had at the request of any member of the Board of Trustees, any item on the consent agenda shall be removed and given individual consideration. Action agenda. Under Business and Finance, we have item 1207A-1, request for approval of bids on walk-in purchases on the following items. A, school groceries, B, general hardware, C, general merchandise. Consent. Item 1207A-2, request for approval of bids on the following items. A, office supplies, B, teaching and instructional supplies. Consent. 1207A-3, request for approval of bid proposals on awards, incentives, and printed materials. Consent. 1207A-4, request for approval of proposal on workers' compensation insurance. Consent. 1207A-5, request for the authorization to request proposals for a third-party administration for the cafeteria benefit plan, IRC Section 125, to include all ancillary voluntary plans. Consent. 1207A-6, request for approval to grant the building committee authority to accept substantial completion for Frank Roberts and Landrum Elementary additions. Consent. Item 1207A-7, request for approval of budget transfers. Consent. 1207A-8, request for approval of the 2011-2012 budget amendments. Consent. Under Curriculum and Instruction, 1207A-9, request for approval of the San Benito CISD District Improvement Plan for the 2012-2013 school year. Consent. Question? Okay. It's not.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. The curriculum committee had a presentation, but we'll gladly do one.
Okay. Question on item 1207A-9. Under Administration, 1207A-10, request for approval of board minutes. Consent. 1207A-11, request for approval for superintendent to negotiate and enter into the interlocal cooperative agreement and memorandum of understanding, MOU, with Cameron County in regards to JJAEP for 2012-2013. Consent. Item 1207A-12, request for approval to endorse and support Gloria Casas for the Region 1 position, TASB Director position. Question on item 1207A-12. 1207A-13, request for approval of delegate and alternate for TASB Delegate Assembly. Question. Item 1207A-13. Item 1207A-14, request for approval of Board Policy Update 93. Consent. 1207A-15, request for approval of Board Policy Update 94. Consent. Item 1207A-16, discussion and possible action on revisions to policy DC local. Question on item 1207A-16. Moving back, I'd like to go ahead and request a motion to approve items 1207A-1, 1207A-2, 1207A-3, 1207A-4, 1207A-5, 1207A-6, 1207A-7, 1207A-8, 1207A-10, 1207A-11, 1207A-14, 1207A-15. Do I have a motion? Motion made by Mr. Medrano, seconded by Ms. Aguilera. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. There were a couple of questions, and we'll begin with the item under curriculum and instruction, 1207A-9, request for approval of the San Benito CISD District Improvement Plan for the 2012-2013 school year. Ms. Sanchez?
Thank you. We did a presentation to the curriculum committee about the district improvement plan, and Dr. Greer is in the audience with us, and she will help me answer whatever questions you have. But the district improvement plan is something we do every year. It's a requirement of the state that we do this. And if you look at tab 9, behind tab 9 is the plan. There are 9 goals in this plan, but if you look on page 3, you'll see the committee that assembled to discuss the assessments that were done this year, mainly composed of teachers, principals, community, and parent representation. And then if you look at page 5, we begin with goal 1, and then there's objective 1. Then we identify the activity, the strategy, the Title I component, the resource personnel who's responsible to implement that activity, the timeline, the resources, and the formative evaluation for each one of those. At the curriculum committee, the committee asked us to add under goal 9 a parent conference. Oh, by the way, this is a living document. We amend it and add to it all year long as needs arise. And they asked us to add a parent involvement conference, which we very successfully used to have several years ago, and we did away with it. We are bringing it back, and it will be added to goal 9. It's not in there right now, but it will be added. Margarita, is there anything else that's in a nutshell? This will be online also for, would you like me to review the goals with you? This will be online so that parents who can have access to it can see it.
For item 1207A-9. Do I have a motion to approve this item? Motion by Mr. Leal, seconded by Ms. Aguilera. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to item number 1207A-12, request for approval to endorse and support Gloria Casas for the Region 1 position, TASB Director position. We had a question?
Actually, it's more of a comment. I just want to say that Mrs. Casas, I've worked with her for several years already, not only on the local level, but on the state level. And she is quite a leader and representative not only of Region 1, the entire Rio Grande Valley and the state of Texas. So I want to just throw in my 2 cents worth on Mrs. Casas. And not only that, her son is a coach for the Mighty Greyhounds. So to me, that says a lot of her. And as far as her, I couldn't recommend anybody else for Region 1 than Gloria Casas. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve this item.
Motion made by Mr. Medrano, seconded by Mr. Leal. Do I have, I'd like to ask the board to vote on item 1207A-12. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item 1207A-13, request for approval of delegate and alternate for TASB Delegate Assembly. We had a question.
I think we've always kept tradition that the new board members coming on, usually are the ones that we send as our delegates. So I'd like to keep that tradition, and I nominate Ms. Ana Cruz to be our delegate and Ms. Fatima Huerta to be our alternate. If it's okay with them.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Medrano, seconded by Mr. Leal to keep tradition for item 1207A-13. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Final item in question, 1207A-16, discussion and possible action on revisions to policy DC local.
I had a question on that one. I know this has been an item that we talked about before. I'm surprised that it came up again. I know the first time that we talked about it, it was voted down because of the fact that we decided that Mr. Limon should have all power and that we should entrust that he would make the right decisions on his hires, because that's exactly what it's asking to be changed. It was against DC local, so now it's asking to be changed. And since we already agreed that we would entrust him with hiring and firing of the employees, is as to why we're asking now for it to be changed again. Because it's time to keep going back to the board can have power, and the superintendent can have power, and the board. So
May I ask, when was it changed?
it was not-
When, it was not changed?
It was addressed,
Okay, when was it addressed?
when we talked about it in the past, because I know that it had been
But,
brought,
but where, when in the past?
maybe like,
But in open session? In open session?
we had talked about. Oh, sorry. Yeah, but I know we had talked about it in the past, and, I mean, I know even at the Team of 8 training that we had, with the Mr. McChan, yeah, he had said that, you know, it was not the board's duty to, hire and fire, that we should leave that solely up to the superintendent, and I know that you all addressed your feelings to me about things like that, and, you know, said that the board's position is to, if I'm not correct, or I mistake this, but that we can make recommendations to Mr. Limon. And, you know, every single one of y'all told me that, I mean, as board members, it is not our duty, it is Mr. Limon's job, and we make recommendations, so I just think that, I mean, it would be good to stay like that. I know that Mr. Medrano has had feelings about, you know, DC local and us upholding the fact that, you know, Mr. Limon is able to do his job, and that the board should not take that away from him or think that he can't. So I just think we need to stay with what we've talked about in the past, you know, or what I've been told, when it's come up in the past, and stop going back and forth, you know, and just leave it up to Mr. Limon, because he's done his job for, I'm sorry, Mr. Limon, how many years? 8, so I think that, if we entrusted him to do it before, then, I mean, I don't see why we shouldn't entrust him to do it now, and keep going, you know, because I know one person's brought it up, and now, I don't know who brought it up, you know, but I'm just saying, you know, if it was turned down when that one person brought it up, I don't see what another person's gonna change it. We're not taking this power away, because in the first place, I went to the internet.
We're not really taking his power away. I went into the internet and I researched different district policies throughout the state. And I researched Harlingen, Sherryland, West Laco, San Antonio, Corpus Christi, Austin, McAllen, and PSJA, and Brownsville. And all these districts have similar policies. And I also went, I clearly read San Benito's policy, which is very unusual. It's an unusual policy, just the way Mercedes has a very unusual policy. So basically, we want to go back, or at least, let me speak for myself, that we go back to what the policy used to be before. We're not taking his power away. He has, once we, I don't know whether I can continue discussing this? Oh, okay. Well, I don't know, I mean, I'm just learning, so I don't want to step my line. So what we are recommending, or at least what we're looking at, is that Mr. Limon be responsible for hiring non-contractual employees, which are at risk. I mean, I'm sorry. And we hire the contractual at least that it be approved through us.
Is the wording though that says, it says the board has authority to hire and fire all employees.
Here's a-
So
Let's
that's
do
the-
exhibit, okay.
That's,
Have you looked at the policy for San Benito?
yeah, well, no, I haven't.
Okay,
Mr.
look,
Cabrera.
read the policy for San Benito
Well, that's what I'm saying, but I just
first.
think before we vote on it, I think we need to discuss it and look
I
at
just-
Okay.
everything together instead of just automatically
On,
voting.
if we look at Exhibit N2, Mr. Cabrera, and N3, if you look at the footnotes, it's a little bit contradictory, unless I'm not interpreting it correctly. But on N2, it says, "The board has the authority to hire and fire all employees," and to me, that encompasses contractual and non-contractual. And then you go into Exhibit N3, and on the footnote, it says that the superintendent retains the authority to hire and fire non-contractual, so it's a little bit misleading there.
Yeah, and just to clarify, these are just proposals so that you as a board can discuss different options, and that's what we're asked to do. So you've got, in Exhibit N2, this is where the board would have the authority to hire and fire all employees. So that's one proposal. In Exhibit N3, the superintendent would retain the authority to hire and fire non-contractual employees, at-will employees, and then therefore the board retains the authority to hire and fire contractual employees. In your current policy, and we didn't put that in there, and I apologize for that, but it's online and it's in your board manuals. Under DC local as it sits today, which was adopted in 2011, the board delegates to the superintendent final authority to employ and dismiss non-contractual and employ contractual employees. So that's your policy as you have it today. N2 and N3 are actually two options as opposed to the current policy. So they shouldn't be read in conjunction. They're actually two completely different options. So your options as a board would be to retain the current policy under DC local, where the board delegates all authority to superintendent, or N2 would be an option, which is board has authority to hire and fire all employees, which is exactly the opposite of what you have today. Or N3 would be another option, where you delegate the final authority to employ and dismiss non-contractual employees, but the board retains the authority for contractual employees. So there's actually three options.
I know that in the past, I've spoken with you, in the past,
This issue, no.
no, not
You and I have not had a discussion over this.
not decision. I'm saying as, that Mr. Dumont, you told me that Mr. Dumont is doing a good job at his job.
No, what I've said is that Mr. Limon is the superintendent and that he merits every one of us respect. That's what I said. And as far as this DC local, I talked to Mr. Limon and I explained why it was being done. So I don't know whether Mr. Limon would comment and say whether he objects to it. If he objects to it, I respect that.
I work at the service of the board. I've worked under both policies. I've worked in the past where this policy was in effect, where the board hires contractual. And I've worked under both, and I can work under whatever the board wants, I can work with. The only thing is that teachers will not have to know that I will bring their name as a recommendation to the board once a month for them to be hired. While now, I approve it and they get a contract the next day, with this new policy, they will have to wait until the next board meeting for the board to approve them, and then they will be issued a contract. That's the only difference. But I'll still make the recommendation to the board as to the teachers that are to be hired.
That would be Exhibit N3, right, Mr. Cabrera? What he's talking about?
Yes, sir.
Would that cause any type of conflict though? Like, if, say something happens and we can't hold a meeting, now we're waiting to tell somebody if they have a job to wait later when Mr. Limon automatically just gives them, because we always move our meetings around.
No,
If there's something that comes up.
I'm sorry. No, they're not hired pending board approval. They'll be recommended to the board at the next board meeting, and the board will do the hiring. I guess you could say that we tell them we're going to recommend you, but there's no guarantee that the board will approve them, so there's that ounce of will I get approved or not? 99% of the time, 100% of the time, most likely they will.
Can I,
Let me respond to that. Basically, in the past, retiring rehires were hired this way, under the recent policy that we have. And we want to try to eliminate that, and we have a say-so as a board. We're not trying to get rid of retiree rehirees, but, we're in a budget crunch. And I trust what Mr. Limon has done recently, but, come next year, when we get more budget cuts and people want to retire and they want to be rehired back, we won't have the opportunity to say no. He will have that opportunity.
well, since you're talking to me.
No,
I'm
no,
gonna
no,
tell
I'm
you
looking
this.
out at the
You're
audience,
talking to
sir.
me, I'm gonna tell you.
There needs to be order.
We don't trust
There
you.
needs to be order.
Mr.
There needs to be
Okay,
order.
Mr. Leal had a
Yes.
comment or question?
I just, with all due respect, Ms. Cruz, I like to see it stay the way it is. Even though I think Mr. Limon, every time he's got somebody to hire, he brings it to the board in executive session. We usually have the opportunity to ask questions and discuss, yes or no. So, like I said, with all due respect, I like to see it the way it is.
And you know what? I've always said that I respect every one of you, and majority rules, so definitely, it has to be a consensus.
Isn't it a practice already, Mr. Limon? We don't necessarily approve, but you always come with us to let us know who the teachers, an executive. I'm just trying to correlate here with Exhibit 9.3.
Yes, sir. I bring to you what is called the personnel report, where I show you all the teachers that I've hired that particular month, and I also show you all the resignations that we've had that particular month. So the board is aware of that once a month when we meet with the personnel report.
I think what he does right now, it's already assumed that it's approved. He approves it, so they're issued the contract. But if we go this route, they won't be able to step foot into the classroom or into any position pending board approval. So they wouldn't be issued the contract until then.
I just think like Oscar, you've been here on the board for a couple of years, Mr. Leal, so I respect a lot of the things that y'all say too, and because y'all have been here a lot longer, and I just think that you all have agreed that Mr. Limon has done his job. So I think that if we've trusted him in the past, that even though we have new budgets coming up and, things may get a little bit hectic and rocky, I think we've trusted him for 8 years, and I think that we can trust him for the next years that he stays in our district, and that we shouldn't think that he is gonna do a better job than us because he's done it a lot longer. And so I just know that it's been talked about in the past, whether it was here or, somewhere else. I can't give you the exact time and date and place and, but I'm just saying that it has been spoken in the past that Mr. Limon is doing his job, and that we should give him that respect that he is doing his job, and he's doing a very good job, and that the board has no authority over that and has no power over that. And to tell you the truth, the board doesn't really need to have, it's very hard for us to meet just on our meetings alone. Sometimes somebody may get sick, may not show up, and I just think if it's, then it starts getting, or if our meetings get moved and shifted and changed, and, people can't make it, it's just like, what if 3 people miss and if there are 2 people miss, or, it's like, what's gonna happen then to these people who are waiting to find out if they have a job? So I just think that Mr. Limon's done a good job. I'm pretty sure you all agree with me, so.
Mr. Cabrera, did we get a legal opinion from TASB Legal Division on this change or any?
I have seen one that, it wasn't requested, but I've seen one that was in the file, I forgot where I've seen that from. I think Mr. Franco had requested one maybe about 3 months ago or so. And it discussed a couple of different options, but that's not in front of us here in the agenda book, or, so I can't speak to it. I don't have it in front of me either. But generally speaking, there's 3 options. Either it's really, the superintendent has all the authority delegated by the board. The superintendent can hire and fire non-contractual, and then the board retains the authority for contractual. Or, you know, so it's just three options. I mean, he gets all the power, you split it in the middle, or you keep, and that's it. And right now, the current one is you've delegated contractual, non-contractual to the board, I mean, to the superintendent, I'm sorry.
And that's just like,
And that's what I think, what you were trying to say, Ms. Cruz, if you will, I guess that's why you went to see what the other districts were doing.
right, exactly.
But right now, we only have the two options, whether he keeps just non-contractual and the board keeps everybody else, the contractual. So if we're gonna leave it the way it is, if the majority desires to leave it the way it is, how are we gonna, can we still vote that way?
There would need to be a motion on the floor to change DC local according to one of the exhibits. Otherwise, if there's no
I make a motion
motion.
that
Well,
we,
if we're gonna keep it the same though, like if we have it
Yes.
the same now, like we're not gonna change it to where we have our just being Mr. Limon and Mr. Limon makes the higher. To retain the same
Yes.
that we have now.
well, I make that motion.
I'll go ahead and second that.
I have a motion on the floor to retain item 1207A-16 to maintain policy DC local as it stands, seconded by, motion made by Mr. Leal, seconded by Ms. Cruz. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries. Policy DC local remains as is. Item number 10, closed meeting, discussion under the authority of the Texas Government Code 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. A, pending litigation. B, briefing on Atkinson case. 551.072 for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. A, update and discussion regarding the sale of tax foreclosed property. Which one? Oops. Which one is this? Okay. Okay, let me go back. Item number 10, it's been revised. 551.071 for the purpose of a private consultation with board's attorney on any or all subjects or matters authorized by law. A, pending litigation. 1, construction lawsuit handled by Mr. Jolly. 2, briefing on Atkinson case, Rafaela Atkinson versus San Benito CISD, cause number B-11-146. And 3, discuss legal issues regarding insurance contracts with school attorney. 551.072 for the purpose of discussing the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. A, update and discussion regarding the sale of tax foreclosed property known as San Benito Enterprises, aka Dolly Vincent Hospital, and discussion concerning the storage and course of action on medical and general records found abandoned with the property. 551.074 for the purpose of the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, to hear complaints or charges against a public officer or employee. A, report on personnel. And the time is now 7:54, and we are in executive. The time is now 11:09, and we are returning from executive session. Item number 11, consider action on items discussed in closed meeting. A, pending litigation. 1, construction lawsuit handled by Mr. Jolly. No action on that one. Item number 2, briefing on Atkinson case, Rafaela Atkinson versus San Benito CISD, cause number B-11-146.
Yeah, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the attorney's recommendation to continue settlement discussion in the Atkinson case.
I have a motion for item number 2, seconded by Mr. Leal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Item B, sale of tax foreclosed property known as San Benito Enterprises, aka Dolly Vincent Hospital, and discussion concerning the storage and course of action on medical and general records found abandoned with the property.
Yes, Madam President, I'd like to make a motion to allow Linebarger to obtain legal advice on the storage and course of action on medical and general records found abandoned with the property.
Motion made by Mr. Medrano, seconded by Mr. Leal. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. C, appointment, employment, evaluation, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee. Recommendations accepted from Mr. Limon. Item number 12, the time is now 11:10, and we are adjourned.